you know, just sprinkle on them cautions. Hello and welcome to the Weekend Debrief. I'm your host, James. Welcome to my living room. This is the room where I like to do my living. As you can see right here, we're at Rainbow Road. But we'll find out more about that in another video. Today we're going to talk about the Coke 600, the endurance classic that tests the fortitude of man and machine and everything in between. 600 miles, lean, fast racing. And it was really exciting. It was intense to say the least, especially with its aero package. I feel like that's the real big buzzword for the year, is intense. And this aero package really does bring intense racing. Qualifying was great because you saw the fastest drivers again start up front, but it didn't necessarily mean they were going to stay up front. You saw a lot of drivers who had long run speed start coming towards the front, but it took a little bit, you know, because there was a lot of cautions. Yeah, early on, a lot of cautions sprinkled into that race.
And we have a caution.
I think they said in the end of it all, there were more cautions in that race this year in the last 14 years. Those early cautions brought a lot of early restarts. And as I said before, this package is a restart package, all right? If it's gonna be like a 10-lap shootout at the end, this is the package you wanted to put your money on, okay? Anything else that's ever happened in the history of NASCAR, just throw that out the window. It's not gonna produce or create what really the fans kind of come to expect. 3 and 4 wide battling throughout the pack, and that's what's great about it, is it just creates the opportunity to pass. Yeah, there was a lot of cautions that really broke things up towards the beginning and latter part of the race, but during the middle of the race there was a lot of green flag runs and a lot of great racing that was brought on because of that. A lot of strategy being played. Green flag pit stops were always interesting and fun to watch. Overall, with this package, it really proved its worth at the finish when there was that late race caution and you needed just a few laps, and there was that entertainment factor of a handful lap shootout and drivers on old tires in the front, drivers with new tires who had been strong all night and who really wanted to win that race. And you saw how it played out, just 4 wide all over the track for every position, everyone trying to make it happen. And from that you saw a really interesting result list. Obviously Martin Truex Jr. won it. Congrats to them and to Joe Gibbs Racing. They really deserved it. They definitely had some of the strongest cars, you know, from the 600 and also from the All-Star weekend. They definitely had what was needed to basically dominate and show that they have the stronger team to contend with, especially during the playoffs. You know, even though Charlotte's not a chase round anymore, it's still good to showcase the kind of speed that they have with this package and platform. And all throughout the night, you saw a lot of contenders that you normally don't see up towards the top 10, kind of battling in the top 15 to try to get in the top 10. A lot of the big heavy hitters were battling to try to stay in the top 15. There's a great balance of parity amongst all of the teams. The parity between Henske, you saw it between Hendrick, you saw it between Roush, Fenway. There were so many great names to talk about, and there were like multiple players from these organizations within the top 10 really battling it out and trying to show their hand. You saw Ryan Newman and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. both battling in the top 5, you know, in the latter stages of the race. You know, Ryan Newman's been really, you know, showing some strength with that Roush Fenway organization. He's probably brought a really good notebook and been a really good teammate to Stenhouse, and Stenhouse has stepped up his game and really excited to try to, you know, win and prove with that organization, so that's really good to see. Though there was one team that had quite a bit of issues, that was JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing. They had basically almost all 4 of their cars made contact with the wall. 3 of them had tire issues, 2 severe tire issues, Eric Jones and Denny Hamlin, though Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch had really strong cars. Unfortunately, as a team, they kind of weren't able to execute the way they should have and have the reliability they needed. I mean, Eric Jones had a flat tire before, like, he could even break a sweat in the race. It was insane, and no warning either. It's just that's an issue right there that they have to kind of address, and they will. It was a really good broadcast as well, a solid race. You know, Fox wasn't trying to do anything special with having any extra cameras or drones or cable things flying by. No, they were pretty straightforward. Darrell Waltrip was He was punny.
What a story, Mark.
It's a solid broadcast. Fox is still doing their thing. So let's move into my top 5. And that's where I talk about 5 drivers that you should have watched or taken note of from this race. So let's start with Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher with JTG Doherty Racing in that 37 car came home 6th after having probably one of the strongest outings that I can personally remember from that team. Like, to be as strong as they were at Kansas, first off, was amazing. And it really showed the strides that I felt like that team needed and that they had and that Chris had as a driver. He definitely was a caliber driver to be a top 10 driver in the Cup Series at some point. But this team showing that they are top 10, even top 5 caliber team, it warms my heart to see it. I'm so happy for that team. I've been such a fan of that team, even when Marcus Ambrose was driving for them as an affiliate to Michael Waltrip Racing way back in 2009. Everything that they've done to improve the 37 and the 47 car this year has really shown on track. For Chris to get a top 10 coming home 6th, great effort for him and that team. How about Corey LaJoie? Okay, Corey LaJoie, we haven't talked about him since Daytona, you know, when he had his face on the car. Now he comes home 12th in that 32 car for Go Fast Racing. Really great effort for that team. He showed that you just don't give up. If you can stay on the lead lap and you have a good car and you have the fire off speed, the will and tenacity to get into a hole and put yourself into places to make moves, you can make it happen. That's what Corey LaJoie did. And he came home 12th with that team. He deserves all the recognition, everything. Bro, you're more than just a field fielder, Corey. Great job, bro. David Rakin, another guy who came home in the top 15, but we were all talking about him in that final restart. He decided to stay out. And it was an interesting strategy call, and at first it was looking good for the first couple laps of that restart, but unfortunately he did fade back on his older tires. But, you know, a net loss of probably, what, he may have finished 12th and he ended up 15th of like -3. Not too bad to have the exposure and to be the guy on the final restart to lead it down and get some laps. It's really great for that team, for Front Row Motorsports, to have a solid run like they did all night, being a top 10 to top 15 car with Reagan, and they've shown speed with McDowell all year, so good to see that out of that organization. Hopefully they can continue to step it up and show consistent speed across the board with all 3 cars. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Man, he was entertaining to watch. I'll just say that, because Stenhouse, from when he got spun out early on in that, I believe it was like the second caution of the race off of Kyle Busch, he was livid. All right, he remembered that, and he noted it while saying like, "Hey man, I'm gonna come find that guy," you know. And eventually he had his chance later on in the race, kind of slid up the track, missed his opportunity. You know, for him to hone back in and to show that he had such great long run speed was great to see. You've seen the short run speed out of Roush Fenway, but to have that long run speed to be there all night, it was like Kansas. And except for Kansas, he didn't have any mistakes except for that early spin. He got it done early and was able to be there at the end, come home with the top 5. So a great showing for him in the Roush Fenway effort. Stenhouse deserved that top 5. And finally, let's talk about the winner, Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. might not have had the most dominant car all night, but when it counted, he had the car to beat. And that's what matters in motorsports. He led a 1/4 of the laps, which was impressive enough. And he's showing that this team is really coming into his stride. It's 3rd win for the season. We're coming into the summer stretch of the season where there's going to be a lot of tests to see which teams have this consistent speed and can show the strength to adapt, especially as the season progresses, going into the chase. You know, Joe Gibbs Racing is strong. Is the 19 the strongest Joe Gibbs Racing car, or is the 18? You know, as this summer goes on, that's what I'm interested to see. Which of those two within that shop is going to be the best? So there's your top 5. I hope you take a look at those drivers, and whoever drivers you were looking at this weekend had some interesting results for you. So let's finish it up with talking Xfinity. I didn't really get to watch too much of the Xfinity race, but what I would like to comment on is that Tyler Reddick won another race. And it's great to see Tyler Reddick winning. hopefully the future is bright for Tyler Reddick. I know the internet's really behind him, and he has a really strong internet base. So it'd be really great to see Tyler Reddick continue to grow and build as a driver. RCR definitely needs drivers like himself and Daniel Hemrick, and they've got a talent pool with them, and Austin Dillon is starting to come into his own, and he's really starting to be a franchise face for RCR, and that team hopefully is turning the corner. But their Xfinity program, like in the past, is just dominant, okay? Tyler Reddick's looking great. He's really got me excited and tuned in to see what's going to happen for this Xfinity Series playoffs later on in the season. But as the season progresses into its summer months over there, I'm excited to see what's going to happen and to see what Tyler Reddick will do to continue to impress me as a viewer. But that was this weekend at Charlotte. I always love the 600. It's probably one of my favorite races of the year. You know, just to experience the triple header that is one of the greatest days in motorsports with Monaco, the Indy 500, and then to cap it off with the Coca-Cola 600. You know you're having a great day. That was a great race. I felt like that was probably one of the best Coca-Cola 600s that I've seen in a number of years. And it's not due to the cautions, it's just due to the great racing that this package kind of presents, and that these drivers are able to present their discipline skills and be amazing drivers and make these bold moves and aggressive passes, but still keep it all in control. Ultimately, it gets me excited though for the rest of the season, though next week we go to a completely different track. I mean, we don't go to a circle, we go to a triangle. You know, that track that looked like those tater tots you got in your elementary school lunch? You know what I'm talking about. You definitely ate those tater tots that look like Pocono. And you were the only kids in the cafeteria who were like, man, this is Pocono. And everyone would be like, man, what's Pocono?
Don't know, now you know.